Today I'm going to be talking about some of the most intimidating books on my TBR. I saw both Reagan from Peruseproject as well as Bex from Becklebooks complete a version of this list recently, and I really want to do my own as well. I've also added in a question that is specific for library readers, so if you are a library reader like myself, answer the last question down in the comments section down below. I'm really curious. So let's get into the questions. The first one is, what is a book you have been unable to finish? The first of which I have actually a copy, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree. This was crazy. When I picked it up a couple years ago, I was actually in the middle of a reading slump, and this was like exactly what I was in the mood for, but something happened in the latter half of this book, and it just trickled out. I think I'm like 75-80% of the way into it, and I just never finished it. It was definitely an accidental DNF and one that I have always wanted to rectify, just because I'm curious to see how it does shake out, and I did get so far into it and I was actually quite enjoying it. But at this point, it's been multiple years and I will definitely have to reread the whole thing. A book that I haven't finished where I will not have to reread anything and I am stuck at about 50% of the way in, and that is The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wong. And this is like almost a travesty. I don't feel like anybody DNFs this book, or at least I don't hear anybody not finishing it. And I do plan to finish it. I got stuck in the middle of the action sequence, which is kind of crazy because it is really fast paced. I just felt like it kept going on and on and on. And it was towards the end of the year and I was feeling just like a little bit of a crunch for finishing other things. And I did that instead of finishing this. I don't know what to tell you. I am planning on picking it up again, but those are two books that I have just not been able to finish. Question number 2 is a book you have yet to read because you just haven't had the time. I'm going to say The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. This was on my priority reads list for both 2023 and 2024, and I just haven't been able to make it happen. I did not put it on any required reading list for myself for this year because I don't know. I say I haven't had the time because I feel like I want to commit my focus and attention to like sitting down and reading this, and I feel like it's gonna be one of those slow books that you just like casually tick away at, especially with that first one that is more like history of the world. I was about 30% of the way. I got about 30% of the way into it last year, so this would theoretically also work for the first question. I do want to like commit dedicated time to reading all the way through this book, and I just don't have that time in my life right now to like really focus and dedicate, I think, the amount of energy that I need to in order for that book to really work for me. Question number 3 is, what is a book you have yet to read because it's a sequel? And so for that one, I'm going to go with Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick, the writing duo Alec Helms and Marie Brennan. And this is the third and final book in the Rook and Rose trilogy, which is definitely one of my favorite series of all time. I absolutely devoured the first 2 books. I have started this one as well. Oh my god, all of the books that are like accidental DNFs on this list already. I have started this book and it just was a really bad time in my life. I had just given birth and it just wasn't the right time to read a physical book where you like need both hands and attention. I was just really nervous about how it was going to go. I was afraid that the ending wasn't going to have like the same hit that the first 2 books did. They both, like those first 2 books in that series that I have copies of, they were such big hits for me, and I'm just really afraid of how this will end. So even though I now do have some more time to read this and to prioritize it, and I think I have an access to the library copy as well, which allows me a little bit more freedom with the ebook, I'm just really afraid that it's not going to hit, that it's not going to live up to my ridiculously high expectations for how this series is going to end. I have actually put this on my priority 25 books to read in 2025. So it is going to happen this year. It is going to happen, but I'm really nervous. Question number 4 is a book you have yet to read because it is brand new. So I'm going to count a February new release as something that is brand new, and I'm going to go with The Amber Owl by Juliette Marillier. This is, she is one of my favorite authors of all time, so there is a little bit of like nervous trepidation with this, but primarily I haven't read it because I don't have access to the book yet. It was published with a small indie publisher in either Australia or New Zealand, I don't remember, but because of that, I am having a little bit of trouble getting access to it as a primarily library reader. So this is most likely a book that I'm going to have to purchase down the line in order to get a copy of it. My library definitely still has not gotten a copy, and I haven't seen a copy of it anywhere else that I have access to. So that unfortunately can be a challenge with being a library reader and new releases, especially new releases with small publishers, however successful that author is. Question number 5 is, what is a book you have yet to read because you read a book by the same author and didn't enjoy it? I'm going to go with The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I have actually tried 2 other books by Sarah Beth Durst before. I read both the first one, Queens of Blood, is that the first book in the Queens of Renthia series, as well as The Bone Maker. And there is nothing wrong with either of those books. I actually have a full review for The Bone Maker. They are both very well crafted, very engaging books that have a lot of things that I like about them, but there is something in particular about Sarah Beth Durst's writing that just doesn't hit with me. I don't know what it is. It always feels like there is something missing that I'm not, that isn't engaging me, that isn't capturing me, something that is not there and present in like an atmospheric and character way that leaves me feeling, while having a perfectly okay time, it leaves me feeling like not emotionally connected or riveted to the story. So despite the huge love for Spell Shop, it has been one that I have been really hesitant on because, especially almost because when it's something that is more cozy, as this is reported to be, I feel like the atmosphere is so much more important, and that's something that doesn't come through with Sarah Beth Durst's writing for me. So yeah, I have been putting off that one because of my past experience with the author. Question number 6 is, what book have you yet to read because you're just not in the mood for it? I forgot to grab this one. Vita Nostra. I have owned a physical copy of Vita Nostra for 4-ish years now. Quite a while. I got it from a friend who was, clearing out his, doing a little unhaul. I'm really, really interested. I really want to read it. It sounds very atmospheric. It sounds very like dark academia, mysterious, and I just haven't been in the mood for it, unfortunately. So I am saving it for this fall. Hopefully this fall I will work myself up into finally picking it up. It is another one of my 25 books to read in 2025. And this one, if you are not aware, I feel like it's like a little bit of an old school booktube book. I don't hear people talk about it all that much anymore, but it follows a girl who winds up in a magical school, but in a very like cozy magical school where like kids don't have any answers. They're like, no, they're not being explained. No one is explaining to them what the purpose of what they're doing is. And I think the ends to the means of what's happening is very unclear and perhaps scary or dangerous. But yeah, I get the sense that it is going to be like a very like dark atmospheric, very fall, dark academia, mysterious, kind of dark, potentially stressful book with some of the like threats to their families kind of thing. So I just haven't been in the mood for it, but hopefully this fall I will embrace the fall atmospheric vibes and read Vita Nostra finally. Question number 7 is a book you have yet to read because it's humongous. This one I'm going to go with The Raven Scholar. It is actually also like technically it's not out yet. It's not coming out until April. But this is a book that I am really, really curious about. I really like the sound of it. It reminds me of The Counselor by E.J. Beaton, but it's 700 pages. Yeah, the Kindle version is 700 pages, and I don't have a lot of space for that in my life. As crazy as it is to say, I feel like I like to get through things a little bit more quickly lately. Like I can't think of the last 700-page book that I completed. How many is Legacy of the Bright Wash? Okay, this is 650, and it took me 5 months to read. So let's say a valid concern here. But The Raven Scholar sounds really cool. It's like a ruler is kind of stepping down and has to select an heir, and from the group of people that they're choosing from. One of them winds up dead, and it is this particular scholar's job to find out who did it. So that has a very similar setup to The Counselor, which I really, really love. There seems like there's less Machiavellian elements here, but it sounds really good. I really want to read it. But yeah, 700 pages is like a pretty significant commitment at this point. At this stage at this current moment of my reading life, let's say. Question number 8, what is a book you have yet to read because it was a cover buy that turned out to have not so great reviews? So I don't buy books unless I know that I already love them. There's very few books that I will buy before I have read them at this time in my life. And so what I'm going to go with here is an anticipated release that I was really excited about that turned out not to have such great reviews. For that, I'm going to go with Long Live Evil. I am actually still going to read this book. It is one of my video TBR books, so a book that I claim here that I'm going to read, and I have to actually follow through with that, and it is on my list of 2024 releases that I still want to read. This is a video that I did with my 5 most anticipated releases from this year and 5 from last year that I still want to get to, so you're welcome to check out that video. And I'm pretty sure Long Live Evil is on this list. And this is one where our main character is actually set in she's from our world and she's dying of cancer, but she is given this opportunity to enter into the world of her favorite book series in order to get the cure. But when she goes there, she is actually the villain of the story. And also she never read the first book, so she's a little bit hazy on the details at the beginning. I feel like the reception on this was pretty low to mixed, I would say. Most people I feel like either didn't like it or they just felt kind of neutral about it, but I do know one channel that did really, really like it. I'm holding out hope that we have pretty similar tastes a lot of the time. That was Sarah from Voyage Through Worlds, who's on a little bit of a booktube hiatus, but you should definitely check out their channel. So I'm grasping to the fact that we have pretty similar tastes a lot of the time, so hopefully I will still really love it. I am really curious. I still want to check it out. Another one here, an anticipated release that was on my TBR that I have since removed because it had such poor or kind of average reviews was Fathom Folk. I felt like that was a really hugely anticipated release from January of last year. Everybody was talking about that book, and then there was crickets after the fact, and if you went out of your way to look up reviews, they were all really, really middling. I think it was really exciting because it was, I believe, Asian inspired, and it was also water mythological beings, which I think sounded really, really fresh and new, and it was a half submerged city situation with haves and have-nots. So it had a lot of really interesting key buzzwords, but then really just kind of blah average reviews, and I wound up not reading it because of that. The final question is, what is the most intimidating book on your TBR? And I think for me, I definitely feel that in regards to The Grace of Kings. I just feel like I've had it on so many I'm going to read it this year, I'm going to read it this year, I'm going to read it this year kind of lists that I've built it up to something more in my head, especially having once picked it up and attempted to read it and had it not, it just kind of fizzled out a little bit with the format, and I wasn't sure the right way to read it and all those things. So I feel like that one is personally the most intimidating on my list because now I'm also worried that I won't love it from having had that initial experience of reading it. I didn't immediately fall in love, even though really a lot of people say it's book 2. But anyway, so a repeat there that one I do think is the most intimidating. But the additional library-based question that I'm going to add into this one is, what is a book on your TBR that you have hit postpone on multiple times? And I'm going to let you choose what multiple times means for you. If this is a feature that your library allows, and if you use the Libby app, I believe that it should be in terms of accessing ebooks or audiobooks through your library. I know physical library copies, they do not allow you to do this. But if you can hit postpone, meaning it comes up available to you and you can nope, give it to the next person in line and sort of keep your spot in line and keep passing it forward. If you can do that, answer this question in the comments down below, a book that you have postponed multiple times. For me, I have 2 that I'm going to give you 3, one of which I finally took it out and I'm currently reading it, and that is The Stardust Grail by Yumi Kitase that I'm currently reading. I hit postpone on this basically ever since I got on hold for it last year when it came out, and essentially have been hitting postpone ever since, until recently. I also did this with Long Live Evil because I started to get really, really nervous about the things that I was hearing about it after like the really big positive review that I initially heard about it. But the one that I feel like is the most representative of this for me, that I have put on hold several different times and postponed them for like over a year, to the point that your library just you're not taking this out, and they take you off the list for it. This has happened to me multiple times. I'm not even currently on hold for it at the library because I have a more limited space on hold, and that is The Hunger of Gods by John Gwynne. I did really like the first book. What was that even called? Not Fury of the Gods, that's the finale. The Shadow of the Gods. I really liked the first book in the Bloodsworn saga, but definitely it was the excitement of the ending that got me mostly excited about that book. And I was really, really excited to pick it up. And then actually I feel like, again, the reviews for Hunger of the Gods were more just low-key, I think, in terms of that it was like a little bit more of a second middle book, and people were kind of just a little bit more neutral about that. And so I didn't immediately pick it up when it came out. And then you kind of get stuck into this postpone cycle of like every time that it comes up, you hit postpone, and you hit postpone for a little bit longer, and you maybe ask for a little bit more and more time in between the offerings to you from the library. And then the longer and longer you hit postpone, the further and further away that information from the first book gets. And it becomes a question of whether or not you need to reread that first book. And now I'm kind of stuck there, and the series has ended last year, and I did not get in on all of the hype, and I will have to probably read that series all the way through at some time. I'm not going to say it's going to happen this year. I'm not adding that to my video TBR for this year, but it is coming eventually. So again, if your library allows you to do that feature, let me know what one of the books you hit postpone on all the time is down below. And that is it for the questions today. I will sign off now, but if you enjoy what I do here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It does really help the channel out, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day. Bye.